Hannah, Koenig, hi. How are you doing today?
Hi. I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I've really looked forward to this interview forever. I can tell you why. We're chatting about visibility today, and you were my only person who I wanted to talk to about visibility because I see you on Facebook. I see you on Instagram. I love watching your energy. I love watching everything about you. I knew you had to be the person to take myself and all of the people watching to that next level.
Mm, thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't start my business that long ago, actually, and the very beginning of 2018, and it was something that I had to learn and get over myself. And it's interesting now to be the person who's, um, seeing the inside of that journey for other people and being able to speak directly into like some of those fears and nurture them forward and to see other businesses grow even at a more rapid pace than my own.
I kind of, I'm not going to look. I've seen you grow your business rapidly. I've seen
Mhm.
you filling up your programs and all the offerings that you are presenting. And it's because, and I'm going to share my opinion watching you, it's because you're absolutely, okay, your packages are amazing. But ultimately, there are so many coaches out there. Why pick someone like you over something similar? But it's because you are so transparent, because I love seeing you and your energy. That's why people are going to click on that buy now button, which I have done to your stuff. I
Yes,
have,
that was so exciting.
because it's a no-brainer for me. It really is, and it's about creating that relationship with yourself and the audience. I want to ask you. You were there, and we all have been there. How do you make the transition from kind of knowing that you've got a voice and then actually getting out there and presenting yourself online and live? Okay, people have got a whole bunch of stuff, and I know you and I know what this is. I can't, I'm too scared, my family's gonna see me, oh my ex-boyfriend's gonna see me, I'm not looking too good today, my hair is terrible. We've got all of those things. How do you overcome that and just do it?
Well, the first is like practice, honestly, right? I've shared actually with one of my in one of my group programs, I shared like the very first live stream I ever did. And like the person and the presence that is meeting you now is not what was on, I was kind of meek and mousy. I didn't know what I was going to say. I was sweating, like my palms are sweating. So some of it is practice and some of it takes time. But the other big piece in that is um, just a willingness to set your ego aside and be like, okay, this isn't about me carrying my fears around and me spending all this time in, I call it hypotheticism. It's like, well, what if, and it's crippling, but me having something to offer and knowing that I really, really dropping into and knowing that what I do can help people and seeing those people and also knowing that um, if people don't know I exist, I can't help them. So it's this willingness to be like, if this is about something bigger than me, then I need to show up. Then I need to show up and I need to be honest and authentic. And I also need to drop the expectation, like, because I assume most of the people I interact with have a very high level of personal expectation, have this kind of perfectionist, like it just has to be so. I mean, I see that like with your work, it's everything you put out is at the highest level of polish and it's beautiful. So of course, I'm sure that's naturally part of your process. But when it comes to visibility and being seen, that's an unrealistic expectation, but because we're talking about injecting personality into brand. And that means who you are as a person, your authenticity. And guess what? Like we don't have the blowout every day or the mascara and you've seen, like I will show up on a walk, on a live stream, and it's learning to just exercise that ability to like when something needs to be said, when insight is coming through, and then to let it go. And the other thing is like, luckily, a lot of the platforms that we're using are time sensitive, right? So it might feel like letting that first live stream go is like the biggest deal ever, but unless someone is like scrolling and like aggressively stalking your social media, 3 weeks later, it becomes kind of lost in the abyss. And so it's just like permission to try.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love watching just your walks and your runs. I mean, just that in itself is so inspiring for me, because that is where we do get our insights, when we're away from our office, when we're away from our computers. That's when our brain starts kicking in and endorphins kick in, and that's when these insights really take hold of us. So I mean, that in itself, and that's when you want to get online and say, hey, this has just come to me, what about this and what about that? And not to be afraid that actually, you know, you're looking like a normal person who's going on a sweaty walk or a sweaty run, and that's okay. It's not what you look like, it's the message. And I also feel that the more a woman can show up and stand up for herself and stand up for her message, to me, that's power. And I believe someone, right, who believes in themselves, because I believe that you can help me get there as well. So I think there's a powerful message underneath there just by showing up about your belief in yourself and your message.
There's it's about permission and worthiness of like, I have this to say, it's valuable, and then letting it go, not like afterward then listening back to it or judging it or counting how many likes you get on this and who responded and said what, but just the permission within yourself to like, this is enough. Like, if this is coming through, if I believe I'm here for a reason, if I'm inspired in spirit, and not even from a religious place, but if like I feel connected, then it's only like half of the job to first get the insight or the inspiration. And then if I'm just going to sit with it, like it's quite selfish not to share it. And the other thing that came through when you were saying this is also that it's empowering, and expressing your voice is also something that gives you a better ability to wield and be in your personal power, like that self-expression and that willingness to be in an expressed relationship with yourself and acknowledge that I do have value to offer. I have something to say, to allow that to come through. And it creates more space, right? Because the minute I give myself permission to show up and to be seen, who I am, how I am, good enough, pretty much everything but like in the shower, even though insight comes through there, it's just like not quite appropriate for the interweb. But by doing that and by saying, hey, this is okay. Like, it's okay for me to be seen without makeup. It's okay for me to have an idea and to share it with you. It's okay for me to share something I've been through that's maybe not that glamorous or beautiful. That creates space for other women to do the same, right? You're holding them in the understanding that like, you are welcome to show up and be you.
Exactly. And it creates a bond as well. I mean, we know that in order for women to create bonds with each other, we share our valuable, intimate moments. And yes, there are limitations. I personally believe that as well. But we want to share vulnerability. We want to connect. And really, that's what it's about. People buy from people who they connect with. It's really simple. Tell me, and how much, obviously I see you quite a lot on Instagram. People might have limited time. What do you advise them on which platform to choose? Some people are on a variety of places. And how much time should they allocate to social media?
That's such a good question, because I get it all of the time. And I think most people are really looking for the formula, right? This is the formula. This is how you go viral. Like, what is like just give me the numbers and I'll work it out and then I'll do that. I actually think there's no wrong place to show up. What I recommend my clients do, and what I recommend or anyone does, is find the places to show up that feel the most fun for you, because that's where you're going to show up the most. That's where you're going to be the most consistent. That's where you're going to be the most open and honest. And the minute you allow yourself to have fun with it, there's some fluidity, there's more connection. People can vibe with you. They get your energy through the screen or, you know, through the platform. And really, these online platforms, I like to kind of think of them like cafes or like places where people are hanging out and connecting, because it really is about connection. So if you're consistent and if you're choosing a platform that feels fun, right? Like if doing the whole production and like video editing for YouTube feels like a nightmare, then don't prioritize that. For me, and you can tell also where I have the most fun, because that's where I have the strongest following. That's where you see me the most, is on Instagram right now. And that may shift, and I give myself permission to pivot, but that's where I'm consistent. So it is about I would say consistency. And that doesn't mean like I show up once a month, right? But it doesn't, the difference between you and this has changed, right? I'm sure you've heard the formulas of like, well, you need to post 5 times a day. You need to post on 6 different platforms. You need to do X, Y, and Z. If you are not putting you into that, it's going to fall flat. You can post 20 times a day on Facebook, and if they're all like quotes or infographics, if you are not, like you said earlier, present with them and connected to them, they're not going to connect. And I know that sounds very, or like a little woo for something that's algorithm based, but it really is true when it comes to being visible. And so committing to showing up and then showing up in the places that feel fun. Also, I see people think that I need to show up in like 10 different places. I'm working currently on my Pinterest, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my YouTube, my TikTok, right? My Facebook. And then they're showing up everywhere a little bit, but they're not showing up in one place really well. And building community, that is something you have to invest in. You have to put yourself in. It does take time. Any more questions on that?
I don't think so. But what about, there's always a dilemma. A lot of people write an amazing long posts. You know, they really do connect with people, and there's a vulnerability as well. So there's people that write a lot of posts, and they do that. People like yourself that are more kind of, could be on the fly, need my energy, I've got this to say, and you have a rough idea, but sometimes you might throw that out the window and say, actually, I'm feeling like this today, so I'm just going to go with how I'm feeling. And that's what I like about you. I can tell the difference between perhaps, and I'm not knocking this in any way, perhaps content that's been pre-written and pre-scheduled, and maybe even written by a content creator or a VA. I want to know your feelings on that. I know I've got some feelings on how that works and how that works for growing an audience. How do you feel about that? And where do you kind of have the balance?
Yeah, I think you're speaking to something that happens a lot online. And then people are like, well, we're putting content out every day, and like, why isn't it connecting? And I see a lot of I see a lot of entrepreneurs, new and very established, really just want to automate that whole system and take showing up on social out of the picture. They're like, I want to do the minimum of that. And I'm not saying it's not okay to schedule things or to repurpose things intentionally, or even to hire a copywriter from time to time. I know there are some amazing copywriters. That being said, if you are not consistently showing up with your voice, in addition to that, you're not connecting with people, right? That requires you to connect with people. And if you are doing that before, if you're hiring somebody or having a VA just do it for you before you've established a voice, there's no way that they can copy your voice because you don't have a voice to copy. So there's no way for that to be emulated, right? I was recently working with an editor on a longer piece I had written for a submission, just to kind of make sure that it was in the format for something my team was working on for press. And what I would have created would not have been the same if I had had someone else write it, right? So there was help refining, but the voice was mine, the message was mine, the ideas were mine, and it falls flat. We can tell, right? You can tell when somebody doesn't care or hasn't put themselves into what they're creating. You can tell when somebody is creating something just to sound like everything else that they're hearing in the online space, right? That's like, oh, is that something that you really feel like needs to be said? Or are you saying that because that's what you see everyone else saying? You assume that's par for the course or that's what works. And if you can tell, your people absolutely can tell. And there's so much online that it's like, why do I stop? Why do I stop and why do I bother? If you are not taking the time for me, why would I take the time to receive that? And I can't answer that question.
I think the proof would be in your audience. I mean, are you filling up your coaching packages? Are you really, are people coming to you for support? And I think if the answer is yes, then you're doing something right. And I do believe, and this is the advice that I'm going to give alongside with you, is try something until you know this is you and it fits in your lifestyle and your energy as well. Because I mean, even with yourself, I mean, you've been picked up by live TV, just from, and things are happening. So it's not only are you filling up your coaching time with people, but your programs, and you're doing so much more media outside of that. In other words, it's working. You know that the time you put in there is showing the results, and they're really cool. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're doing it to actually have some fun. It's not just about work and work. But I think if you're not getting the results that you're wanting, change it up. Do what works for you. Stop listening to what everyone else is doing. Maybe follow, a few people and get inspired. That's my advice on something like that.
Yeah. Follow others for inspiration.
Inspiration.
With curiosity, but not with comparison, because that will take you out of the game faster than anything else. And it is fun. And I think that's the difference that a lot of people miss. When you look at it as like, this is work and this is something I have to do to be able to do what I want to do, instead of actually what I want to do is connect with people. What I want to do is serve. What I want to do is share something that might remind somebody of what they have or what they're capable of, or help them navigate something that feels stuck or feels difficult. That feels fun for me. So that's a huge shift in the resistance to showing up online. Is like, you know what? Actually, it's really fun for me to connect with people. And yes, that requires me to be on video. And, sometimes my hair is crazy or I had lipstick on my teeth and no one told me. And that's okay too, because like, if I took myself so seriously, I would never get anything done.
Yeah. I think that's the whole point. It's got to fit into your lifestyle. It's got to be fun. It's got to give you the freedom. We don't want a business to create that actually takes our freedom away from us. And we just bogged down by these to-do lists. I think a nice healthy medium would be, if you are launching something, then have some structured posts that are relatable in terms of, yes, I've got this coaching program I'm going to be launching. I've got a mastermind I'm launching, and definitely have those. But in between, spice it up, keep it fresh, keep it real. You don't have to. I mean, there's always that 80-20 rule about 80% of the time just show up, 20% of the time ask for the sale. Does that work for you? Do you use that in your life? Do you think, or in your business?
Well, I think it's an interesting question and perspective, because I actually think that everything you do when you're showing up online, when you're visible on social media, but even, when you interact with people, right? Like, I've built relationships locally and online, is an extension and an expression of your brand. especially for personal brands, but even for commercial brands, that, you know, if you're the CEO of a commercial brand, when people interact with you, that's an extension of what you do. And it's the same with sales. So I may not be on this video right now with you selling anything. I'm selling nothing, but I'm still selling an idea, right? It's still selling people on what I have to offer, or selling them on themselves. Like, there's still, sales is never, just like branding, is never not part of the conversation when you decide to step into leadership. So that's the first thing I think is interesting about that question. And the second thing is you were talking about structure. And I actually think structure, a little bit of structure and a little bit of discipline, can create more space for creativity and for spontaneity and for energy to come through. Like, I have structure when I do my launches. So I know what we're offering. I have a timeline. I also know really clearly who I'm offering that to. I know what they're struggling with. I know exactly what they desire. I know how the offer, exactly the bridge point where the offer meets that place for them. And so I'm able to articulate that really clearly. Like, those structures can be really liberating in the sense that now structure creates clarity, right? So if I go into a sales call, or if I go into a launch or something with clarity and with intention, I'm able to deliver, because I'm not going in there showing up and being like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. And as freeform as some of my live streams are, and organic as some of my content is, I'm never jumping on without an intention, right? I have this intention to serve, I have this intention to elevate, and this is the idea, and this is why. So even in the lack of structure, there is structure. And it's different at every level or for what you're doing, but I think that it creates an opportunity. And structure for me isn't having everything scheduled and written out 6 months before, where it loses connection, but structure where it creates space to come in and to execute, right? To have energy behind it and then execute really impeccably, to connect with people so that they receive what I'm delivering.
And that's why you are on here, because you have this magic. You just get some businesses that just are able to create this magic formula. And I'm saying that's magic, your magic formula. I know that all of us, myself, and people watching, need to create that for themselves. And ultimately, it really is about the intention. You've said it a couple of times, and it really is, you're very clear on not only the intention, you're very clear on what you are offering to people, what you know you can deliver. You're very clear on who these people are, what their pain points is, what's going to light them up, and what they need. And so it's quite easy for you to go on live and talk, because you are very clear on that. And this isn't about, huge woo-woo and manifesting, but I believe, and I know this from experience, if you've got those things clear, it's like a highway. Things will come to you with absolute precision, clarity, and ease, because you've got those things, you've dealt with them, and you're really, really clear on, like I said, on the intention, on what your deeper purpose really is to connect, and what your intention is for people. I know that when you get onto a call, it's not ultimately for the sale. I don't know you that well. I know you, but I know for a fact, I can hands down say, that's not what it's about. You're not just trying to get the sale. You really want to improve this person's life. You really want to support them in any way you can. And I get that. And I think as soon as someone realizes that, as women and entrepreneurs, if we are able to really connect with that part of ourselves, and why are we doing that, it's going to connect with that other person. And you don't need to sell to them, because it will just happen so automatically and so easily. And that's when business becomes fun. It stops being something that's hard and difficult from what we were told it's going to be by our parents and peers. We start becoming fun, and no one believes us. No one believes how easy it is, fun it is, and how was your day? Fantastic. Everything worked out. And I can just feel that you are in that zone of genius. And it's so beautiful to see that and to acknowledge that. do you have some advice on people starting out? You just said, just do it, just get visible, just get practice. I know that there's masterminds, I think you can practice within a mastermind, so you don't have to go out immediately into the public and do that. I know that my first live stream, I actually just froze for about 3 minutes. That's my story. I completely froze and I didn't know what to say or do. I was just so overcome with fear. But I know that with practice, this goes away. So for anyone that's experiencing that, what other advice do you have?
Gosh, I mean, ripping off the Band-Aid it's the only way to start, right? It's the only way. Like at some point, you're going to have to rip that off. And the more things we put in between us and doing that, it kind of builds a callus, right? And so it becomes more difficult to because if I would have done it last week, then I'd be having a new conversation this week of like, oh, okay, I'm still a little uncomfortable, but I didn't die. And now I know I didn't die. And so I know we can do this again and everything's going to be okay. People want to see you and want to connect with you. Like, I think we also forget that. Like, people want to know what you have going on. Even when it's like friends, family, random people who follow you that you went to grade school with. We're curious about each other. And most of them want to support you. And we have this idea of like internet trolls just coming down and just ruining us and we'll never get out of bed again. That is really rare on most of the social platforms we're showing up on. That will happen when you go viral, like when you do like a Brene Brown TED Talk that takes off. That's not the conversation like 90% of people are having. So it's like, okay, like let's bring this back down to reality. And I think you also mentioned something that's really important is getting your butt accountable, right? Because if there's not a layer of personal accountability, then your motivation to take action on something that you're already kind of like anxious and not that excited to do becomes a lot less. And now you know that there's nobody, if no one's looking, if no one knows that you didn't go live and you never go live, then I guess the only person who's bothered is you, right? And there's no explaining kind of our own indifference to ourselves. I have no explanation for that, but I know that when you're held in support, when you're either in like a very supportive container or a community, when you have a mentor that's like, you got this, you can do this, and you know that that person is going to check in with you, and then you're going to have to be like, I didn't do it, that gives you the ability to just rip off the Band-Aid and do the damn thing. And then when you don't die and nothing happens, it's like, okay, now it's a little bit newer conversation. Yeah. And then also having fun with it, like not taking it too seriously, being like, you know what, this is my first live stream. It might suck. I'm okay with that, right? This is the first clay pot I made, but I still want to try because it really just is about creativity and expression. And it's learning a skill, just like learning to ride a bike. And if you bring those childhood elements of curiosity and play into it, and that kind of release of that adult illness that is seriousness. When you're a kid, you'd like, I fell down. There was no question in your mind that you were going to get back up or master the thing. It's like, all right, let's do it again, right? That was, and also nerves are just energy. Like we just assume that if I'm nervous or if I'm anxious about something, like as an adult, we're like, oh, fear, it's bad. There's something wrong with that. No, it means you're excited and it means you're pushing up against your edge, right? It means you're growing and expanding. And if you're not leaning into that discomfort just a little bit and realizing that energy is just energy, then you're kind of like, you're telling yourself a story that's not actually what the whole experience is. And like, why make it hard?
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm obviously going to be putting all of your social media handles and your website and everything along with this video. And I've got a challenge for myself, not for you, for myself and anyone who's watching this now, is that for 7 days to go live on Instagram or Facebook. But if you go live on Instagram, to tag myself and to tag you How about just we do that and just live. So I'm going to do that. This is my accountability to yourself. I'm going to go live for 7 days. It doesn't matter what it's about. I'm not even going to plan it. I'm not going to structure it, just to show that it's okay. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone, because even with the most thriving coaches out there, I just feel that sometimes there's a huge block. They've got their branding on board, they've got everything on board, and then there's this bit of a stuckness in taking it to the next level, whatever that next level is. And I really believe that's just about believing in yourself now and having that visibility to take it out there. You need more than just a funnel. You need more than just Facebook ads. You need to really show up. And this is what it's about. This is why I'm interviewing you, because I really believe it's so important. So let's do this challenge. Let's make it fun. So even if it's me with my dogs or me, showing something here in South Africa, it doesn't matter. It's just about showing up. So I'm going to be doing that for 7 days. Anyone who's watching, please do that. Please join me whenever the time matter. The timing is fluid, as I say. Tag us so that we can obviously cheer you on as well. Hannah, thank you. Thank you so much for your energy, for your time.
Thank you.
I will be seeing you. And this is another thing about being visible, is that you make friends online, and I love it. And it's true friends. It's we've got each other's back, and I acknowledge you for that. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love you. I can't speak highly enough about your work and who you are. And honestly, more people do need to see just that joy and the master behind, the most beautiful brands in the industry, and what you're doing here for your people, for your programs, for your audience. It's so beautiful. So I'm so, so grateful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.